Muslim community of Myanmar's Rakhine state should be granted nationality. That's been the call of the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres to the authorities of Myanmar during a briefing to the Security Council on the crisis there. It's seen more than 500,000 ethnic minority Rohingya Muslims flee the country to safety in Bangladesh. Guterres has also appealed to the leaders of Myanmar, including military ones, to condemn incitement to racial hatred and violence.
The UN chief wants to see 3 immediate steps from Myanmar authorities: an end to military operations, unfettered humanitarian access, and to ensure the safe, voluntary and sustainable return of refugees.
The devastating humanitarian situation is not only a breeding ground for radicalization, it also puts vulnerable people, including young children, at risk of criminal elements, including trafficking. We have received bone-chilling accounts from those who fled, mainly women, children and the elderly. These testimonies point to excessive violence and serious violations of human rights, including indiscriminate firing of weapons, the presence of landmines and sexual violence. This is unacceptable and must end immediately.
The situation across the border with Bangladesh has spiraled into the world's fastest refugee emergency, a human rights and humanitarian nightmare, according to the United Nations. The global body has referred to the situation of ethnic cleansing, while human rights groups have documented the destruction of Rohingya homes and villages, forcing hundreds of thousands to flee in desperation. Myanmar authorities argue they're fighting terrorists after Rohingya rebels attacked several Myanmar security posts on August 25th.
We cannot be afraid to call the actions of the Burmese authorities what they appear to be: a brutal, sustained campaign to cleanse the country of an ethnic minority. And it should shame senior Burmese leaders who have sacrificed so much for an open, democratic Burma. The Burmese government claims it is battling terrorists. If this is true, let them allow media and humanitarian access to back up their claim.
While a dark shadow has been cast over Myanmar's leadership, including Nobel laureate Aung San Suu Kyi.
Authorities must now take the decisions that will decide their place in history. They can choose to end the violence and protect civilians and defend human rights. They can choose to allow humanitarian access, including by the United Nations. They can work with Bangladesh on the return of refugees, and they can address the long-term issues raised by the Annan Commission. But should they fail to do so, they will find themselves on the wrong side of history.
France, that assumes the Council presidency next month, has invited former UN Chief Kofi Annan to address it after chairing an advisory commission tasked with healing the long-simmering divisions in the country. Bryce-Pease, SABC News, New York.